an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.46% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,182, a high of 9,304, and a low of 9,072. That's $1 for 10,891 Satoshis. Checking out our top story today, there's a fire in San Francisco. That's right, in the worst of all possible places. They said there was a fire. They said it was Pier 46. I said, oh no, that sounds close to Fisherman's Wharf. I used to hang out there. I thought hopefully it's one of those empty warehouses down the way, something like that. Not the gorgeous, fantastic, and amazing Musée Mécanique, which is an old arcade filled with wooden arcade machines, filled with little dioramas where you put a quarter in and they light up and they kind of dance around and play a song, probably off a record, probably a song off a record. It was also close to a World War II Liberty ship, which I think I got to tour, and a World War II submarine. So quite the bad area to have a fire. Let's see how it turned out. Here's a man on the street with the video. Bang, there's the fire.
You can see that they're still actively trying to contain the fire.
Still actively under control, trying to be controlled. This is kind of a fishing warehouse kind of thing. I've walked down there. There's really nothing going on except for fish, and they're bringing in the haul, and they're doing their work. And then if he pans back, let's see, maybe at the beginning, did he pan back or is it the other shot? But basically, this is right down the street
Right here you can see
from the Musée Mécanique. So right here you can see Musée Mécanique. This is the video game arcade where I used to hang out, where they have all the old arcade machines. They've got a couple pinball machines. They've got some old, newer video games as well. Right there, that's where the fire was. So, whoop, close one. Good job, firemen, kicking the butt of that fire. But they still say it was an incredibly large fire. As Carl said, it did not reach the Musée Mécanique. It's still there. They also saved the World War II Liberty ship, and the submarine was probably fine. But yes, you can see it from space. Here's when the fire was going. You can see the size and the power of the fire. They don't know what it is yet. Of course, we're going to throw arson into the mix, or some kind of oil can getting knocked over. I don't know, homeless people living in the building. I don't know what happened here. But yes, a major fire in San Francisco, close to the Musée Mécanique, but no cigar. Didn't get him this time. So, and the fire has been contained, so we're not talking about a original 1906 San Francisco earthquake situation where the inferno that came after the earthquake was actually worse and more damaging than the earthquake itself. Got a lot of books to read you here today. We're just getting started. Let's see, we've got 17 people watching in the YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Hello to Facebook, Periscope, all the others. I'm going to check the YouTube now just to make sure the sound is working. Hey, it's an echo. It's me. But yeah, I left the Bitcoin Pizza Graphic Day on there a second time. I agree with Chris M in the chat. Yeah, homeless or insurance. I think insurance is definitely a big possibility. Real estate in San Francisco used to be really expensive, but we don't know how much longer that's going to be true. However, you can see as this is right down on the water, they have said that about half of the pier is lost, and that it's likely actually wooden boards and piers underneath those warehouses, and that those piers are gone. So this is going to be no doubt a $1 million refurbishment project. It's going to be a major expense for the city, but fortunately it's under control. You can see it right there. If it had marched through the Musée Mécanique, then it would be a really good thing that I took 1,000 pictures of that place. But it would be a real tragedy that it would be gone. Kind of like Notre Dame, right? Except the opposite. I didn't go inside and take pictures, and then it burned down. So let that be a lesson to you. Always go inside and take pictures, because it might just burned down. So let's see. It's International Book Day, so we've got some international books. We're going to be taking your phone calls, but we want to start first with just really incredible reading. I'd forgotten how great this book is. This is Buckminster Fuller, Operating Manual for Spaceship Earth. Truly a classic. Not very big either. I mean, lots of flags too. That must mean it's a good book. So you should check it out, Buckminster Fuller. As he's saying here, since the great pirates were building, maintaining, supplying their ships on those islands, they also logically made up their crews out of the native islanders who were simply seized or commanded aboard by imperial edict. Seeing these British islanders aboard the top pirate ships, the people around the world mistakenly assumed that the world conquest by the great pirates was a conquest by the will, ambition, and organization of the British people. Thus was the GP's grand deception victorious. But the people of those islands never had the ambition to go out and conquer the world. As a people, they were manipulated by the top pirates and learned to cheer as they were told of their nation's world prowess. The topmost great pirates Leonardos discovered, both in their careful long-distance planning and in their anticipatory inventing, that the grand strategies of sea power made it experimentally clear that a plurality of ships could usually outmaneuver one ship. So the great pirates Leonardos invented navies. Then, of course, they had to control various resource-supplying mines, forests, and lands with which upon to build these ships and to establish the industries necessary to building, supplying, and maintaining their naval ships. Then came the grand strategy, which said, divide and conquer. You divide up the other man's ships in battles, or you best him when several of his ships are hauled out on the land for repairs. They also had a grand strategy of anticipatory divide and conquer. Anticipatory divide and conquer was much more effective than tardy divide and conquer, since it enabled those who employed it to surprise the other pirate under conditions unfavorable to the latter. So the great pirates of the world, realizing that dull people were innocuous, and that the only people who could contrive to displace the supreme pirates were the bright ones, set about to apply their grand strategy of anticipatory divide and conquer to solve that situation comprehensively. Interesting stuff from Buckminster Fuller, a operating manual for Spaceship Earth. Buckminster. We've also got a reading from How to Practice the Way to a Meaningful Life by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Maintaining commitment in this lifetime. There are 4 practices aimed at keeping this altruism from deteriorating in this lifetime. First, increase your enthusiasm for becoming enlightened for the sake of others by recalling again and again the benefits of doing so. Then, increase your concern for others by dividing the day and night into 3 periods each, and during those periods take a little time from your day, or rouse yourself from sleep, to practice the 5-step visualization given on page 84, even for just 5 minutes. The practice is very effective. It becomes a regular habit, like eating food at a certain time. If you cannot do this so often, visualize the steps 3 times in the morning session that lasts around 15 minutes, and do the same at night. Ponder the meaning of your aim. May I attain highest enlightenment for others. The next practice requires vigilance. In seeking to gain highest enlightenment for the sake of all beings, make sure to not mentally neglect the welfare of even one. Try to accumulate the 2 forces of merit and wisdom as much as possible. To increase merit, engage willingly in virtuous activities like generosity and morality. To accumulate wisdom, you must come to understand the true way phenomena exist. Since this is a complicated topic, we will be exploring it at length in chapters 8 through 10. Suffice it to say here that it is helpful to reflect on how phenomena arise and exist dependent on causes and conditions. It's a really good book. This is a How to Practice. It's not a religious book. It's more like an operating manual, kind of like the other book. But if you want to check out Buddhism and you don't care about the religious sides or whatever, you just want to know some useful things, it's not a very big book. How to Practice. Definitely check that out. Classic. I've also got a reading from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Empathetic listening. Seek first to understand involves a very deep shift in paradigm. We typically seek first to be understood. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They're either speaking or preparing to speak. They're filtering everything through their own paradigms, reading their autobiography into other people's lives. Oh, I know exactly how you feel. I went through the very same thing. Let me tell you about my experience. They're constantly projecting their own home movies into other people's behavior. They prescribe their own glasses for everyone with who they interact. If they have a problem with someone, a son, a daughter, a spouse, an employee, their attitude is, that person just doesn't understand. So seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 5, the 7 habits of highly effective people. We've got international books coming up later in the show. We have Spanish Military Art by Sucedas, I'm going to guess with. But it's fantastic and incredibly detailed, and I found it randomly in Barcelona. We've also got a trio of books I think I've shown you before, but I like them. This is the library at Trinity College in Dublin, maybe the greatest library in the world. It's a detailed picture book, and I bought this on Amazon. Didn't find it in the town, but Tower Bridge, I got to go there too. Another really cool picture book coming up on International Books later in the show. Stay tuned. Right? We got all the graphics. You're thumbsing up now because you're like, this is a graphically enhanced show. Look at those books. And finally, Charles Bukowski, sifting through the madness for the word, the line, the way. These are new poems. That means posthumous. And later on, I think we're going to look through the Bukowski list, see if I can find some new Bukowski to buy. Because running out. Although these are just long. These are just long poems. But I found you a short one to teach you about classical music, something Buk was into. Observations on music. I have sat for thousands of nights listening to symphony music on the radio. I doubt that there are many men my age who have listened to as much classical music as I have, even those in the profession. I am not a musicologist, but I have some observations. Number 1, the same 50 or 60 classical compositions are played over and over and over again. Number 2, there has been other great music written that we ignore at our peril. Number 3, the second movement of most symphonies is only kind to insomniacs. Number 4, chamber music has every right to be energetic and entertaining. Number 5, very few composers know how to end their symphonies, but most opening movements, like Romance, have an early charm. Number 6, I prefer a conductor who inserts his own interpretation rather than the purist who blindly follows the commands of the master. Number 7, of course, there are always some conductors with so much ego and interpretation that the composer vanishes. Number 8, music is much like fucking, but some composers can't climax, and others climax too often, leaving themselves and the listener jaded and spent. Number 9, Humor is lacking in the most so-called great musical compositions. Number 10. Bach is the hardest to play badly because he made so few spiritual mistakes. Number 11. Almost all symphonies and operas could be shorter. Number 12. Too much contemporary music is written from the safe haven of a university. A composer must still experience life in its raw form in order to write well. Number 13. Music is the most passionate of the art forms. I wish I had been a musician or a composer. Number 14. Very few writers know how to end a poem like this one. Number 15. But I do. Observations on music, Charles Bukowski. Good stuff. Let's see what else is going on today other than the fire in San Francisco. The price of Bitcoin was down slightly, only 0.38%, with a last of 9,178, a high of 9,304, and a low of 9,072. That's $1 for 10,894 Satoshis. Volume is low, but it's Saturday, with 2,968 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean margin long, with 77% of the market heading that direction. Let's see what else is going on. I was thinking about Bukowski books, seeing if there were any that I didn't have, maybe running a fundraiser and trying to buy them. Let's see. You Get So Alone at Times, got it. Love is a Dog from Hell, got it. Post Office Novel, got it, read it. Women Novel, got it, read it. Ham on Rye, got it, read it. Last Night on Earth, got it. Burning in Water, Drowning in Fame. Factotum, I don't have this, but I've read it. So there you go. But that's one I don't have. Kind of interesting. Charles Bukowski motivational quote canvas wall art. Targeted advertising, right? Essential Bukowski poetry. That sounds like a collection, right? Bukowski at Belleville. Don't have that. Ooh, Pleasures of the Damned poems that I don't have. Okay, so that's one I definitely don't have. Complete works of a different Bukowski. Oh, mean. That is not the man. Days Run Like Wild Horses. Got it. On Drinking. This seems like a fake novel. This seems like fake. Pulp. Got it. Read it. Notes of a Dirty Old Man. Got it. Read it. More sponsored books. Nothing that good ever comes sponsored, right? Sponsored. Born Into This. The Bukowski movie. Seen it. Bukowski Life. That's a thing. What Matters Most is How You Walk Through the Fire. I don't think I have that one. Hollywood, got it, read it. Tales of Ordinary Madness, I think I got it, read it. Cats, I have that in German. I don't need that in English. Hot Water, got it. Beautiful Woman in Town, got it. On Love, looks fake again. Something's going wrong there. They're just recycling things. They made Factotum into a movie? Matt Dillon. I think I saw that. It's not that. Not as good as Barfly. Play the Piano. Got it. That's a good one. Captain is out to lunch and the sailors have taken over the ship. Ooh, that sounds good. That's one of those long title ones I don't have. Bukowski Reader probably has less poems than I have. You never want a reader or a collection. That just means they made the writing really small. That sounds like a different Charles Bukowski. War All the Times. Got it. Betting on the Muse. I don't think I have that. It sounds new. And then you see On Writing, Bukowski on this, on that. They're just trying to take your money. Mockingbird, Wish Me Luck. That looks like one I don't have. Ham on Rye, South of No Noth. Roomhouse Madrigals. So there's a lot of books still out there. Septuagenarian Stew. $40. No way. Even $17 for a paperback. No way. So there's a couple of books that I don't have. And I do also have his letters books that are out of print. So maybe here's a Tallycoin. This is how Tallycoin works. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it. I talk about it a lot. Tallyco.in. It's not in India. It's in England. Or, well, it's in Australia, I guess. But DJ Booth made this. This is Tallycoin. I took this Bitcoin address here. I copy and pasted it from green address on my phone, you know, because it's not a like giant fundraiser or whatever. But what you do is you just type in, I want USD, want to raise like, let's say $40, you know, for like Bukowski books. Next, fundraisers are titled Bukowski books. So that's, you know, what I'd like to do. If you want, there's all these other fields. You can describe the fundraiser, donate to help Mad Bitcoins buy more Bukowski, right? That's what we're talking about. And then you just go next, double check it again. Address looks good. Goal of $40. I think we could do it. And Bukowski books. So create a fundraiser. Boom. View the page. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, DJ Booth. Let's see. It took me back to the home page. Let's see. Did it create the thing? Oh, do a double fail? Okay, so we'll have to work with this later on. Darn, did I log out or something? I must have logged out. Somehow I broke it. See? Never send a computer programmer to break your code. So there it is. Tallycoin, broken coin. That did not work like I had planned. So let's go here. Blockstream.info, replacement for blockchain.info. And there it is. If you guys want to donate, there's the Bukowski fundraiser. Goal is $40. So if 2 people donated $20, I would shut down the fundraiser. We'd be like, it's over. It's done. So, and good enough. Let's move on. So we talked about the fire. Musée Mécanique is safe, but look how close it was right down there at the end of the row. And, of course, now we're wondering about the stability of this pier. And they say they lost 50% of the pier in San Francisco. Whoop. It's gone. Checking out the Bitcoin stories. Got 10 Bitcoins. You're now in the top 0.5% of 30 million Bitcoin addresses. That's pretty hot that there's 30 million Bitcoin addresses, even if we know that doesn't mean necessarily 30 million users of Bitcoin. Even if every user had 10 addresses, that would mean 3 million users of Bitcoin. Still really cool. So, and if you got 10 Bitcoin, you're doing all right. 97.3% of Bitcoin wallets hold under 1 Bitcoin. So even if you got 1 Bitcoin, you're doing pretty good. Wild weekend for Bitcoin price. U.S. lockdown loosens on Memorial Day. Bitcoin's recovery to $10,000 is currently hindered by resistance at the 20-day moving average, and with a holiday weekend coming up, traders brace for volatility. Basically what they're saying there is there's less people looking at Bitcoin on the weekend, especially on a 3-day weekend here in America, although what that means anymore with everyone staying home most of the time, seems like all the days seem to end in Y. But there will be more action on the Bitcoin charts and less volume to do it in. So if you're a big pig, you're swimming in an even smaller pond. As we showed you this morning over on Bitcoinal, only 2,911 Bitcoin have traded hands so far today. That's down from the usual volume of around 10,000 Bitcoin. So about a third of the volume because it's a weekend, maybe even a holiday weekend. Master of puppets, Bitcoin cuts the strings. The centralized financial system has compromised itself several times during the last 2 decades alone. And now it's time for a serious change. All right, well, he's talking about The Big Short and Master of Puppets and Metallica. All right. You should just go watch The Big Short. Goldman Sachs is hosting a client call about Bitcoin, gold, and inflation. Yes, I'll bet they are. I'll bet they are. 8 reasons why this could be the time to take Bitcoin seriously. As opposed to all the other times, like when it was $300 and when it was $1,000 and just a few weeks ago when it was $4,000. Those weren't good times. Let's see. Just going to go over the top points. Security. Yeah, that's good. Availability. I guess. Accessibility and ease of use. Still pretty hard. Borderless transfers. Yeah, we got that. Inflation resistant. Now that we got. Compatibility. Well, it works with Bitcoin. Potential for increased investing. Like Goldman Sachs having a phone call about it and talking about inflation publicly.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
That's true. Lack of superior competition. I've been saying that for years. All right, those are pretty good reasons. Bitcoin does seem pretty cool. Checking out the news. I went ahead and watched some more Randy Rainbow songs. Obviously, I'm way late to the party. He has millions and millions of views. But if you like political songs with jokes in them, the guy's amazing. So many perfect details. Not just the singing, the writing, but the visuals and the attitude. Check out Randy Rainbow. Not going to play any more of them here, but they're great. So, back to the news. Antibody tests show that only 7% infection rate in Stockholm. Herd immunity is as far away as ever. Sweden has 2/3 the population of Denmark, Norway, and Finland, but 3.5 times the dead. Unconscionable waste of lives. Just what a waste. How sad. And again, remember, people are still saying that Sweden is a success. We already told you, we looked at the numbers. Sweden, compared to their neighbors, have 3 to 6 times as many dead. And remember, they did that because they wanted herd immunity, like veterinary science. They wanted to be like the cows, where you let most of the cows die off, and you still try to save some of the herd. You just take a loss so you can develop herd immunity. But it didn't work. They got 7% allegedly immune, right? 7% where they have some kind of antibodies. We don't even know if they have enough. We don't know if this virus develops enough antibodies or if you have to keep developing them. 93% still infectable. They're going to have to lock down anyway. Oh, this was bizarre. This was just totally out of left field. I don't know. Well, and it's more pandering to his base and so on and so forth. But President Trump declared houses of worship essential. So remember, we just had a big lockdown and everyone was like, we figured out really quickly what was essential. We were like, oh, food is essential. Water's essential. Hospitals are essential. Veterinary hospitals are essential, right? Dogs need help. What else? I mean, the power company, water company, the sewer company, all these kind of services were essential. Doctors and nurses were essential. And as much as, we support everyone's right to religion here, this is the United States, but the churches didn't seem very essential. Actually, if you looked at it from a virology standpoint, from an epidemiology, that actually seems like a place where you would spread the virus, right? And a large indoor gathering of many people from all around the community, all coming together each week, previously in the past, touching each other, often hugging, shaking hands, exchanging pleasant greetings, which is all virus code for spreading the virus. So it really seems like you'd have these people stay home. And even in Bitcoin, little non-political Bitcoin never gets in any political argument, certainly a non-political thing talking about money. But even in Bitcoin, Jimmy Song came down on the side of the religious people and said that he wanted the churches to be open. He wanted to worship in person. He saw it as a violation of his religious freedoms, while many other people saw it as a way to spread the virus, right? And that our first goal should be to not spread the virus. Just like when you're on an airplane, and if you have oxygen problems on the plane, those masks pop down, and you put your mask on first, and then you put the mask on the child next to you, right? You have to keep them safe, right? We all work together as a responsibility for society. So you were really hoping that, people love churches. Other people love bars. People love all kinds of great places where we can congregate and hang out and go to concerts and things. But we closed them down, right? We stayed home. Even if you're a killer Metallica fan, you're just like, oh, I'm going to have to miss the concert. I have to go later, But now he says that he's going to keep them open. Of course, he doesn't necessarily have the power to do this. Churches are not directly controlled by the federal government. That's probably a good thing. It's more of a state issue, state-by-state issue. So it's really more of just a political announcement. He's just announcing this to rile everyone up and get us all talking about church versus state and religious rights and these kind of things and the right to spread the virus. A lot of people coming down on the side of the virus lately. You'd be surprised. I mean, I'm a fan of humans. I'm like pro-human, Vonnegut, humanist, long-time fan, love the work, humans. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the walls, the castles, SpaceX, NASA, rockets. We build a lot of cool stuff. Humans. Viruses are cool too. Viruses have built a lot of cool stuff. Viruses usually kill their host though. It's kind of lame. I mean, we destroy a lot of stuff as humans. A lot of old buildings. Sometimes on purpose. But, viruses, every time destruction. So if you want to root for like Team Virus, that seems very strange. I'm anti-virus myself. Long time McAfee fan. At least the software. But yeah, this is just a wag the dog. So there we wagged the dog. And I also had an interesting poll on this. Thanks to everyone for voting. We had 41 votes. We still have 2 hours left. If you want to go over to the @MadBitcoins Twitter account, you can vote in this poll. 25, I'm going to just call it 25% of the people are actually with me, and they are incredible optimists on this one. Here's the question. If churches are essential and left open during the next wave of the pandemic, will we see the end of organized religion? And again, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek question here. You really got to dig deep to see what I'm talking about. This is the dodo right here being cut in half. Looks like the dodo is full of some delicious things. And oh, they also took my, come on, Twitter. There it is. This is the best GIF ever. How could they not show this? This is Charles Darwin eating popcorn, right? So my question is really evolutionary, right? Like if religious people start going to church during pandemics and they spread the virus among religious people, is it possible that the religious people could wipe themselves out? Is their scientific ignorance so strong that they're willing to just blindly run back into these churches and to eliminate themselves? So surprisingly, 25% of people agree with me on this. 75% are a more cautious sort. They think that certainly religious people have the chance to say no to this. And I'm going to hopefully read several examples here of pastors and others saying, we're not quite ready to reopen. Thanks for the vote of support, so on and so forth, but we're just not quite ready. And I respect them a lot for doing that. The pastors also said in their letters that several of the priests were sick. And I know that people have a very short memory, but I remember back in the Italian phase of the pandemic when they lined up about 10 coffins of old priests who had done the right thing for their profession. They had continued to console the sick, and they had continued to visit their congregation that was in crisis in Italy, and it cost them their lives. So it's only slowly starting here. They said that 2 or 3 of the pastors were sick and that they weren't going to have services still. But it's fascinating to see people encouraging the virus, kind of rooting it on, these anti-human people. And sure, there's different reasons why they could be anti-human, right? One reason, they just don't like people, or it's an accident, right? They're like anti-human, not on purpose. Another reason, you could work for another country or another government or another corporation. Maybe wants less humans. Maybe wants America to fail. Maybe you benefit every time an American dies from COVID virus. It's like every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Every time an American dies of COVID virus, this country benefits. I wonder if the breakdown of America into multiple parts benefits any other countries. Huh. Oh well. Shout out to BTCC and Bobby Lee. He's working on the Ballet crypto wallet. I got one of those around here. I should try it out. And he was talking about the history of Bitcoin Pizza Day. And it's funny because we've been in this so long that the things that we did and the things that Bobby here did have started to become part of history already. It was May 23rd, 2016, when BTCC spent 2 Bitcoin to buy enough pizza for everyone in their company. That was 2016. In 2017, they spent 0.412 Bitcoin. And then now in 2018, they spent 0.086 Bitcoin. So a lot of people probably crying over the 2 Bitcoin spent on pizza, or people crying over the 10,000 Bitcoin spent on 2 pizzas. Or Andreas said recently he spent 1 Bitcoin in 2012 to buy 5 pounds of coffee. I know myself, I spent like a 0.1 to buy $20 worth of stickers. I put one of the stickers on my car, and when I later sold my car, it was less than the 0.1. My car probably went for $500 at the end, and the 0.1 was worth about $1,000 at the time or whatever. So, but this isn't something to lament about. This isn't like, oh, you're so dumb, you shouldn't have spent that. People spending Bitcoin made Bitcoin possible. I know there's a big disconnect in everyone's head, and they're like, I'm a hodler forever. Like, how could you fundraise in this thing? The reality is, first of all, a lot of people just bought back. I talked to my brother yesterday. He said, oh, yeah, I bought pizza with Bitcoin once, and I immediately bought back the Bitcoin. And it's just that simple. You can spend it, and you can still buy some to replace what you spent. I know, mind blowing. But people haven't thought of this. They're like, if I donate $10 to Mad Bitcoin's book fund, let me find the graphic here. Tallycoin broke on me. Disaster. But here it is right here. No one's donated anything. But if you donated $10 to this fund, what you do is you go to Coinbase, or you go to Cash App, or I guess this new thing, Swan Bitcoin or whatever, and you buy $10 worth, right? Or maybe even $20 worth, right? You just get a little bit more now every time that you cash up. You're like, oh yeah, there's some fees and there's some other things, and plus, I really like Bitcoin, so I think it's good. I want to get some more. But that's what you do. You have to spend it. You have to make it part of it. You have to give it to people. I've given out hundreds of dollars and sometimes $10 or $5 to random people to get them to install a wallet and try Bitcoin on their phone. And I'm sure it's worth more now, right? But if I didn't tell all those people, where would anyone be, right? If Laszlo didn't spend 10,000 Bitcoin on 2 pizzas, would Bitcoin even have any value today? Like, would it have taken longer? Like, if we want Bitcoin to happen, you have to be able to move it around. You have to have some little extra Bitcoin on your phone. Sure, you got your cold storage, and you got your cold storage locked up, and you got multiple levels of security and all that. So I'm not saying unwrap your multiple levels of security to send $10 to a fundraiser. What I am saying is you should have, a couple bucks, 50, 100, maybe 200 or so on your phone to experiment with, to use Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin goes up too much, send some of that to your cold storage. Now you're experimenting with using your cold storage. Use multiple addresses, use multiple wallets, try things out. Even try multiple exchanges. I mean, there's no reason to just keep everything at home and not to do anything, right? That's why Bobby Lee spends Bitcoin on pizza. And he's cagey. He's smart. He probably rebuys it. And it doesn't say right here, and then I rebought it. Ha 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 ha. But he's smart. He probably did. It's early in the desert. I need to drink more water. Las Vegas needed help testing for coronavirus. Then, the Crown Prince from the United Arab Emirates set 200,000 tests. So that's the only reason Las Vegas is opening. The Crown Prince of Dubai, of UAE, sent 200,000 coronavirus tests because he likes gambling. Embarrassing. Remember when Trump used to own Atlantic City and then it went out of business? I remember. Shout out to Jack, the man from Twitter, the man from Square Cash, the one who runs Cash App. He put up a slice of pizza. It was great. It was Bitcoin Pizza Day. Happy Bitcoin Pizza Day. We're still celebrating today. I didn't change the bottom graphic. It's Saturday. What's funny about this is obviously we know it's May the 22nd. It's Bitcoin Pizza Day. Jack is clearly a Bitcoiner. But a lot of other people reacted to this negatively and thought that Jack was referencing Pizzagate or some other kind of creepy conspiracy. So it just shows, you put a triangular slice of pizza up there and pretty soon everyone's calling it a pyramid scheme. So happy Pizza Day from Blockstream. Check it out. Looks like everyone's socially distancing at home. Everyone has different kinds of pizza and they're showing it off. So very cool. Shout out to the whole Blockstream team. Good stuff. Americans are desperately searching Google for stimulus check news. That's right. Google searches for things like second stimulus check and date of second stimulus check are rising incredibly fast, going incredibly viral. And the sad news is nothing has been done. We just wasted another week not giving a stimulus check to the people. The Democrats passed their bill out of the House. The Republicans wouldn't even look at it. They were too busy confirming more judges. All right, more judges. I wish the court was more conservative, said no one. But yes, you're not getting a second stimulus check. The crisis is real. People are going to start getting evicted from their homes. We're going to see poverty hit, and it's all because they just don't want to print more money. They already gave money to the corporations in the first round. Oh, you didn't get a stimulus? You were part of the 7% of the bill. 93% of the money went to corporations. Oh, whoopsie. And again, remember when they were giving them $1,200? That's all we got. And I said, how about $10,000? How about you just save time, put a zero on there. I'll pay down my credit cards. It would help me a lot. And everyone will be improved. And they're like, no, we can't do that. Can't give money to the people. And then now look, the people are going out of business. The people are getting evicted. The people are going to be living in poverty. And we're going to see more damages from the failure to print money. This is a Keynesian economic system. When you're in a crisis, you print money. That's what you do. Sorry. Orange Book writes, signs of maturity. You apologize when wrong. You stay calm when wronged. You listen with no impulsive judgment. You inspire those who feel down. You guide those who are lost. You take responsibility. You notice your ego. You enjoy every day. You are relaxed, but focused. Good stuff. Another sad photo from Hong Kong. You can see the umbrellas as well as a salute. CNN International. Could this be the end of Hong Kong as we know it? Sadly, this is one of those rare headlines where the answer is probably yes. Kayleigh McEnany gave another press conference for President Trump. She says, boy, it's interesting to be in a room that desperately seems to want to have these houses of worship and churches stay closed. Reporter, I object to that. I go to church. I'm dying to go back to church. The question that we're asking, is it safe? Slam. Analyst says it could take 3 years for the Las Vegas economy to recover from the COVID-19 crisis. And that's just Las Vegas. We talked about this earlier. Goldman Sachs is hosting a client call about Bitcoin, gold, and inflation. Hubba, hubba, hubba.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
But there's only 21 million Bitcoins. And here's the disgusting way that Las Vegas is getting ready to reopen. You can see the plexiglass shields here over the blackjack table. As it says in the headline, disinfected dice. Las Vegas casinos getting ready to roll. And Las Vegas locally has a quote. It says, Las Vegas can never be known as the place where people go and get sick. So they are fighting this very strong. We're seeing the governor keeping the casinos closed this weekend. Everyone wants them open. Everybody is jonesing real hard, but he's keeping them closed right now until June the 4th. Even then, he says he's not sure he's going to open them, but he might see riots and chaos and madness, as we saw yesterday with the shopping at Ross. People apparently need to shop really bad. We didn't know how bad the shopping addiction was until it was socially distanced on the street in front of the store on the first day of their opening. But yes, apparently the brainwashing has got these guys really good. And they need to shop, and they need to gamble, and they need haircuts, and they're willing to overlook any kind of scientific evidence. The best evidence that we have says, stay home, stay safe, wait this out just a little bit longer, right? Don't just go back out into the Petri dish, right? It's not a good idea. Speaking of the Petri dish, check it out. There's the vice president and the governor. I'm not sure which governor. Kemp, maybe Florida? Governor Kemp of Georgia. Oh, goodness. Yes, he's having a great lunch, right? Look, they're not wearing masks. No one else is wearing masks. No one's social distancing. The restaurant is full. This is a slow motion disaster just waiting to happen. It's sad. It's like a car crash in slow motion. You're just like, no. 6 months after saying he started the process, President Trump still hasn't completed his annual 2020 physical. The White House won't say why. The results must be really good. He's obviously a bodybuilder, similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger back in his day, pumping the iron. He likes to pump iron. So he's a very fit man. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with his physical. There's no chance that he's a space alien hiding in a human's body. Check it out, Bitcoin Pizza Day. My brother made this pizza at home. It was very good. People on the internet thought there was too much pepperoni. You must not be from America. America, we put toppings on our pizza. So, but thanks to everybody for liking and sharing the Bitcoin pizzas. I saw a lot of other people had some very good pizzas, a lot of Bitcoin symbols and so on and so forth. So great to see everyone enjoying some pizza. And I saw a lot of homemade pizzas too. So I think that's the best. Even though it was a corporate pizza for certain reasons, the 10,000, there's no reason you can't enjoy some good homemade pizza. So, study estimates 24 states still have uncontrolled coronavirus spread. So there it is, 24 out of 50. Let's roll the dice. Come on, baby. Just walk right back out into that Petri dish. You can go first. I'll stay here. And forget about the 50% capacity thing. The line at Nordstrom's Rack in downtown Summerlin, here in Las Vegas, one of the suburbs. Look at it go. Well, there's one guy's got a mask at least. Okay, two or three masks. I see 3 masks, about 20 people. Can't really see if they're wearing masks. Let's say 4 or 5. Let's add some of these people. But again, they're all standing too close. Maybe 10 masks, 10 out of 40. I'd say maybe, yeah, there we go, some more masks. But still, look at this like shopping necessity. Now, just for me, I guess I'm a little conservative in a lot of ways. Look how close they are. Now, for me, I always remember that Oscar Wilde quote, beware of any occupation which requires a change of clothes. Right? He's talking about everything here. He's talking about dirty occupations, things where you might wreck your clothes because you're working in the mud. He's talking about fancy occupations, things where you might need a fancy set of clothes. You might need a really nice suit, something like that. And he's also talking about this. When you have to go out to a store and you have to wear a mask and you have to take all these precautions, you have to also judge whether it's worth going to the store, right? Like normally I'm not a gambler, so I wouldn't be out there playing blackjack, but let's assume that I was. I would also have to judge into the blackjack playing that, yes, I could bet $100, I could win $1.50, I could lose all of it for sure. I could get some free drinks, and I could get the coronavirus that could kill me, right? So it's like, whoa, $50 in gain, maybe $100 in gain, some fun playing blackjack, which I don't think it's fun to play a game that's generally fixed, although that's one of the best ones. But all that, and then you get that risk, that roll of the dice. Maybe I get the killer virus, right? I would just stay home. Like, I mean, right here, I got enough clothes. I can order more clothes on the internet if I really need them. But these people apparently need clothes really badly. Again, it's a good thing I'm not there with a microphone and wearing a face mask and goggles, because if I had half a heart, I'd interview these people. I'd say, like, I think my first question would be, are you out of clothes? Like, do you have any clothes at home? Do you have any extra clothes? Do you have any clean clothes? Is your laundry machine functioning? Do you have access to a laundry mat where you could rent a machine for quarters? Have you considered cleaning your clothes instead of buying new clothes? Because basically just the risk assessment for me, and there's a kid too, the risk assessment of possible killer virus versus need for clothes. And I guess these are clothes that are on sale. I mean, they're getting bargains and deals, right? Like, I like a good deal. Yeah, I just don't get this. And again, we're inside the bubble now. In a couple of weeks, the bubble's going to pop, and everyone's going to look back on this. Even the fact that they're wearing masks. I remember months ago, Balaji and others talking about it on Twitter and convincing me that, yes, we should wear masks. I'd heard the initial guidance. Then I talked to my friend in Hong Kong, and he was like, no, over here in Asia, we all wear masks. We beat these things. It does block some of it. It doesn't block it like protect you, but it blocks it like protect others. And of course, I instantly saw on a grand scale how if we blocked it and we protected everyone else, it would be over, right? We would just end it. So yeah, I was all for wearing masks then. And I'm all for staying home now. I don't know what they're going to do with those discount clothes. I hope they look really good. Here's another shocking clip here, and I guess some of the people in the chat are going to cheer this on, but it's up to you which side of humanity you want to come down here. This guy's trying to do his job. He's a reporter. He's wearing a mask to protect others, right? He doesn't know any of these people. Like the guy said yesterday, his cameraman was caring for an elderly person, so he wanted to wear a mask to protect so that the cameraman would not get disease, germs and disease and bring him home to his elderly person. All of these people could also have an elderly person in their house that stayed home. So instead of, just kind of respecting him for the mask, they harass and attack him. Let's see how this goes. Take it off, they're chanting. This is anti-science now. She's touching him. That's a violation of the non-aggression principle. She's hitting him with flowers. That's childish. And they chase him away. So these are the people who, die from a lack of scientific information. And we're just in the bubble now. A hairstylist in Springfield, Missouri, exposed as many as 91 people to coronavirus after working in a salon for 8 days while symptomatic. That's right, while symptomatic. Remember, asymptomatic means without symptoms. Symptomatic means with symptoms. So they were coughing and sneezing. They might have had 100-degree fever as they continued to cut hair. You're just going to kill your customers. With the exception of the cigarette companies, no one has ever made a successful business killing their customers. Even the hard drugs, much like the virus, if you kill the host, you can't sell them anything anymore. Breaks down. Another sad goodbye to Hong Kong. In the lobby of Taipei Main Station, a flash mob to support Hong Kong as it faces the effective demise of one country, two systems is about to begin. Looks like a really nice station. I love the checkerboard floor and the scale of the squares. Free Hong Kong, revolution now. So as you can see, with the Chinese government's greatest fears, the slogan, which was initially just stop Article 23, has become a full-on revolution slogan, at least on these two flags. And this is, and of course, the yellow umbrellas from the Umbrella Revolution, another symbol. But this is, of course, why they're moving to backdoor Article 23 and to allow the extradition of prisoners out of Hong Kong into China, essentially ending the Hong Kong one country, two systems. Bad deal. Here's the start of notable companies who have filed for bankruptcy since the coronavirus outbreak. Expect this list to get much longer. Right now it fits on the screen. That's a good marker. J. Crew, and again, this is like reading a list of the dead, right? This is the real only things that we recognize here in America. No one's bothered to read the 100,000 or so of the American dead. They're not even trying. But we do read for you the dead of companies. And remember, they might come back like zombies too. These brands could be sold and resold, reanimated, if you will. And here they are. J. Crew, Gold's Gym, John Varvatos, Neiman Marcus, True Religion, Dean and DeLuca, Stage Stores, J.C. Penney's, Comcar Industries, Avianca, Hertz. And remember, for each one of these, we will eventually see a category. Hertz having trouble means that the other rent cars, Budget, so on and so forth, are also in trouble. J.C. Penney, artifact of the dying malls, Macy's, Sears, add their name right there. True Religion, always a funny name for a brand of jeans. I always thought it was hilarious. John Varvatos, bad news for Howard Stern. That's his favorite store, his favorite designer. They also famously bought CBGB's in New York City. It used to be a punk rock club. It's where Blondie, the Ramones, the Talking Heads, many others got their start. And now it's a fucking expensive clothing store. But the neighborhood changed, the times changed, so on and so forth. But I wonder if CBGB's will be up for sale with Varvatos going out of business. I did hear they used to have, sometimes they would have shows there. But I imagine it looks nothing like it used to. Scott Dworkin, nailing it again. If you think it's safe to reopen without a clear national plan in place, then no one should listen to a word you have to say. It's really time. If you're scientifically ignorant, and you're ignorant of the risks, and you think that we should be risking people's lives so they can go get a haircut, maybe you should just be quiet for a while. It's hard to believe that 7 years ago, I bought my first Bitcoin pin and keychain from Davi Barker, Muslim agorist, and Bitcoin, not bombs. It's very cool. It's the classic, free the market, free the world pin before Roger Ver copied it for Bitcoin Cash and other things. Shout out to Whale Club. He says, the last Star Wars movie is the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen. Yes, prequel trilogy included. And I agreed, saying that it kind of makes you want to never see another Star Wars movie again. Just like Star Trek Picard makes you hate Star Trek. Some of the greatest franchises that we grew up loving, mainly because there wasn't a lot of new stuff. I mean, obviously I read the Star Trek novels and I read the Star Wars novels. So those were new stories. But as far as the canon, the original films were just kept pure for a long time. And now we're seeing many people who don't like these series taking them over and making their own stories, not necessarily for the fans of these series. So Star Trek without science. Star Wars without mysticism, right? They took the Force, which was a great Buddhist symbol, and this was even under George Lucas, turned it into midi-chlorians, right? No more mysticism. You've got science now. Just like in the early, now it seems early, Star Trek remake films, they literally had J.J. Abrams come over, filled the screen with lens flares and explosions and excitement and sideways diagonal running, and they removed all the science from the movies, all the science from the show. It was red matter allowed you to time travel. But why? Because red matter. So things have only gotten worse. Discovery was bad. Picard was worse. And now they're just creating more shows to ruin Star Trek. Just like they're going to create more shows to ruin Star Wars. Although The Mandalorian somehow was good. I don't know how. Meanwhile, Marvel just keeps getting it right. Going back to the original stories, writing versions of them, linking the movies together, adding more characters slowly, not disrespecting the fans over and over and over again. It's very strange. Our only hopes for Star Trek is that the current series is all fail, and once they've all failed, the rights return to CBS. They can be reunited. Right now, we're in a really unique place where Star Trek, where they have to make it 30% different from the other Star Trek, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but part of the deal was that they didn't own old Star Trek at the time, so they could only make new Star Trek. Now things have changed. All of the Star Trek licenses are together, but the original contract that says Star Trek has to be 30% different still exists and still being enforced. I guess the 30% was everything that made Star Trek good. They can't include those parts. Oh no! Georgia is allegedly a swing state, although we all know it's Republican. This gives Biden the chance to do what he's wanted to do since the beginning and pick Stacey Abrams, the loser from the Florida governor race, to be his vice loser. So it's getting very close. Originally, when the primaries started, when the process started, Biden wanted to run as a team. He wanted to go up there against Buttigieg, against Sanders, against Warren, already with his beloved Stacey Abrams at his side. But now he's going to do it because Georgia's a swing state, so they're giving him a reason. They're also saying Biden might pick Klobuchar, which would be boring, boring, boring. So you have boring or a loser. You have to have a reason to lose. You have to set up people. It has to be believable. The fall guy has to look believable. Shout out to George Takei. I faced discrimination, hatred, and internment because of my Japanese heritage, and because only a few people stood up for us. Today, Asian Americans are being unfairly labeled and attacked, this time as disease carriers. Raise your hands, friends, if you will stand up for us today. And I think we've been standing up for it here. We've shown the examples of how the president's negative language could be twisted, calling it a Chinese flu and a Chinese virus, could very easily be twisted to taking it out on the streets and yelling at random Chinese or Asian people, blaming them for the virus. We've seen this happen. So don't use negative language. Don't create negative situations. Begin with the end in mind, right? 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. If only the president had read that book. Too much news. Too much news. I'm overloaded. Too much news. Time for a break. We're going to check this out. This is I can't read it. He wrote his name so weird. Sucades. I'm going to go with Sucades. But this was at the Museo de Modernismo in Barcelona from the 26th of Junio to the 21st of Julio. So actually not that long, only about a month. This was under the Ministry of Defense in Spain. And Jose Cucach, I think it is, 1851 to 1908. And let me see if I can get to some of the good stuff. There's a lot of pencil drawings here in the beginning. I know that's not going to excite you. I know what you want. You want details. You want great art, right? So let's see. He was a soldier. He stopped being a soldier, and then he began doing this, right? There you go. Now, one of the details here is that as a former soldier, all the saddlebags, all the whips, all the horseshoes, all the swords are incredibly detailed. Right? He was incredibly familiar and experienced with this kind of equipment. Here's a great one. This is Spain. She's holding the castle. Let's see, a little higher. Oh, that's on the delay. I can almost see where I'm holding these up, but yeah, there it is. You can see Spain on the right there. Pretty cool. She's holding a castle and a pen. She's kind of like the state. He did individual pictures of soldiers. You can see right here just the incredible detail that he did on their caps, on their uniforms. I mean, it just lifelike images. Very cool stuff. I found this kind of randomly in Spain. I was walking around, saw a museum, figured I'd hit it up, and I was richly rewarded both with a very cool book. It's in Spanish, and Ministerio de Defensa, and just these very cool images of war. And you can see really look at the uniforms here, the shiny helmets, kind of British helmets that you've seen before. Very cool stuff. So Jose Ciudades, love it, man. Cucas. And yeah, I listened to the audio tour. This was a really good one. I remember this one from the show. But yep, there it is. So there's a big book, international book to get you on International Book Day. There's a lot more. I wish they were bigger. Here's one you can really see the snow and the cold, what it must have been like marching through that, fighting through that. What a life. So there you go, breaking it up a little bit. And we're just going to go for it here. Do the full International Book Day, which is Saturday. So it's a good day to show the books that you bought in other countries. I got this in Ireland at the Trinity College Library. It's like my favorite library in the world, maybe the best library ever. And what I love about this book is that it's just all pictures. It's all crazy close-ups of the library. Let's see, how good can you see this? I'm not sure. But yeah, crazy close-ups, tons of pictures. What a library. How cool it was. And for a long time, this kind of thing was my wallpaper. And I didn't even know where it was. I was just like, those are some cool old books, man. I was like, man. And yeah, turns out this is where it is, right there in Dublin. You can get a tour. Usually have to kind of schedule a day in advance to get a tour. I don't know anymore. But they also have the Book of Kells. It's an illuminated manuscript. That means it was written by monks very slowly. No, it has art in it too. But it's very cool. I like the Book of Kells as well. But I was there for the building. I was there to stand in this hall. And oh yeah, tourist tip, because I'm a little bit of a tourist these days. Okay, so you see this hall? I spent about 3 times as much time in this hall as everyone else because I had a strategy. So I started out, did a little bit at this end, did a little bit at this end, did a little bit at this end. Then I reset back to the beginning so that I could spend more time just kind of relaxing and chilling and then watching the people and looking at books, looking at the very different lighting, looking at the options, where the staircases were, where the ladders were, how you could get to the books, just really exploring it. And then after I went through it again, boop, 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 I went back to the beginning again, sat down, really thought about it, really spent my time there. And again, not against the rules, but no one thinks of this. They just kind of go through in a line, and when they're done, they're done. So if you like a place and you want to see more of it, or if you go to a museum and you want to see the art again, just walk through it again or go backwards. I've heard in Japan they won't let you go backwards. But still, everywhere else, explore that museum. Like, you paid to get in. And this is the other international book. It's international by way of Amazon.com. But it's by the same publisher. And I like this one so much, I looked online to see if there were more. And there were 2 or 3 more, but kind of places I hadn't been. But then they had this one that was from the Tower Bridge, which is a place that I have been. So that was really cool. When I was a kid and they said that the crown jewels were in the tower, I assumed the tower bridge. I assumed the jewels were kind of right out here on the walkway, or maybe in one of these two towers. And I thought they were very safe. I thought it was a very smart decision to put the crown jewels out there. Even when I went to tour the Tower Bridge like last year, I made a mistake and we went to the Tower Bridge before we went to the Tower of London, which fortunately wasn't crowded, but was a magnificent tour. They had the new skyways. They had glass bottoms. You can see me and my brother sitting on the glass bottoms looking down at I want to say the Thames. That's a shot in the dark on the river, though. Kind of gets me good on Jeopardy, though. There's a stop thing. What's so unique about this bridge, and again, this is just another really cool close-up picture book, is that this is like a lever bridge, right? That bottom section pulls up, the other section pulls up, and it's the weight that does it. So once it gets to a certain point, it goes, and the whole thing's up. So they're weighted bridges because they're just so very old and magnificent, and allowed for ships to go through. So big ships. And they used to open it like 30 times a day, 60 times a day, 250 times a day. They used to have a lot of traffic that wouldn't fit through this bridge, and now they have much less. They open it like 3 times a day. Still, awesome tour. There's a good one there. You can kind of see how it cracks open. The cement opens up, and just a really modern bridge for such an old bridge. They took out a lot of the stuff, but they had great stories about the guys who used to work there and managing the bridge. And they had just like a bridge team. They were like a whole crew. They ran the bridge for years and years until basically they computerized it. They put in things, and all these steam engines, these close-ups of like the calipers and the grips and stuff there. That's all the machinery underneath the bridge that would lift up the thing and then put it back down. So really cool stuff. London Bridge and Trinity College in Dublin. These are called pocket photo books by Thames and Hudson. So if you guys want to check those out, get some more. I found these two. There were a couple others, but I hadn't been to those places, so it didn't matter to me. And they were expensive. These are like $10, $15. I mean, it's worth it. As you can see, it's hard to print. It's a lot of photos. So maybe there's some more tea. Very little tea. Let's see. I have water that I can pour into the tea. It's the best sound on the air. Okay, we can do it. We're going to get through the news. Here we go. Back to the news. Robert Reich. Trump's response to the pandemic. Ignore warnings. Call it the flu. Call it a hoax. Blame Obama. Blame China. Cut taxes for the rich. Bail out corporations. Threaten states. Concoct conspiracy. Declare victory. Meanwhile, more than 90,000 Americans are dead. Ouch. That is not something I'd want to run for re-election on. Trump doesn't care about reopening places of worship. He just wants to cause a scene to distract us from the fact that he's a failure who let over 100,000 Americans die of coronavirus. Paul Krugman. Trump's assertion that the death toll is overstated is, among other things, a dress rehearsal for November. If he loses, of course he'll claim fraud. The only questions are how explicit he'll be in inciting violence and how his followers will respond. So it's not too late to cut your ties from this guy. It's not too late to say, hey, I made a mistake. He's not my leader. But otherwise, we're going to go right off the cliff and see what happens. Nearly half of Twitter accounts pushing to reopen America may be bots. Once again, it's not a good idea to go outside. I don't know who thinks it's a good idea to go outside. They must not have very good scientific evidence, and they're just being incredibly risky with their lives and their families' lives and their old people's lives and other old people's lives. the ability of their organs to still function. But yes, nearly half of the counts are bots, which makes you think, who would have a vested interest in America reopening too quickly and spreading the virus more? Well, you'd have to have a lot of money, right? And you'd have to have a lot of bots. Maybe if you already had the bots lying around because you do something else like messing with the American election, and if you got away with that because the president got emotional about it and thought you were accusing him and couldn't separate the fact that there was still an attack. Even if you're being accused, there's still an attack, Mr. President. We still need to put up some walls. But they didn't put up any walls because, it was a personal thing. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how much money must be spent to convince people that it's okay to go outside. And I wonder which country is spending that money. Another sad story. Pastor who claimed to cure coronavirus with faith dies of coronavirus. As in Cameroon, he claimed to cure the infection via the laying of hands. So he was touching his patients. He was allegedly curing them. And then he came down with the virus himself and passed away. It's a sad story. I could have prevented that. Reopening my ass. This is ritualistic mass suicide. Choose not to participate. I thought I saw this morning. I couldn't really believe it. Trump's former Attorney General Jeff Sessions hits back at the president for endorsing his Senate rival. And what a man this Trump must be. What a prince and king of the earth. Sessions stays with him the whole time, recuses himself from something he was involved in following the law. And for his loyalty, this is what he gets. He's supporting his primary opponent. Sessions, continuing to show loyalty, promises to be faithful to Trump's policies and to support him if elected, even after this. It's like, remember Wormtooth in Lord of the Rings? Remember the toady? How he was not Gandalf, but the other one, the dark wizard Sauron. Saruman the White. And his toady stuck with him the whole time, and he was always like, yes, master, ha! That kind of seems like this, huh? I think it was Catherine McKinnon did such a good job playing him on Saturday Night Live. I think that's her name, Katie McKinnon. She's fantastic. We're in the midst of the worst economic crisis in our lifetime, and Senate Republicans continue to delay relief for the American people, saying, I don't see the need right now. Unbelievable. We've got to take back the Senate this November. And it would be amazing if the Democrats did win the U.S. Senate along with the U.S. House and the U.S. presidency, and we could actually get something done. Be amazing. And yes, there's no more stimulus coming. They won't even consider it until early June. So they're just going to let things get worse. They're going to these people that have lost their jobs, there's no company for them to go back to. All the restaurants, all the clubs, all the casinos, all the cafes, every concerts, movies, everything's closed. Travel is closed. But we don't need to give those people money. Just let them die. Let them get herd immunity to money. Let their accounts have herd immunity. Those fees that the banks are charging you, the interest on those credit cards, you're getting herd immunity to not having money. They're going to thin you out. And finally, we talked about the fire in San Francisco. Thank goodness the Musée Mécanique is safe. Pier 45, that was right on the nose, though, right down the street from the magnificent arcade filled with old arcade machines, wooden ones, dioramas that light up and move around. Example, a bunch of cowboys around the fire, and they're all eating chili. And it's like campfire music. and you put your quarter in, and it plays a little record, and all the cowboys are farting, and they move up and down with the farts. It's great. They have another one of like an execution. You quarter in, it like plays a little record, kind of dun 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 dun, or something. You know, it's a dun 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 dun, and it's like the guy drops down, and they hang him. It's very dark, but fortunately they were saved. Thank you to the firefighters. The pier burned right there, right up to the Musée Mécanique. So maybe they should move that somewhere nicer or get some fire suppression systems. Maybe this will be a rebuild for the whole area. It's kind of warehouses and fishermen, and it's not really commercial. And so much of the city is commercial. So maybe that would be a good direction to go. And we made it. We made it through the news. We survived. For those of you just joining us, you could always donate some Bitcoin to the address right here on your screen. $20, $40, no more than that. If we do receive any donations, I'll use these to buy more Bukowski books so that we have different poems to read. You might be getting tired of the same poems all the time. It's because I'm running out of Bukowski poems to read. Maybe if I get some more, that'd be fun. So, no big deal. We're also going to open it up to phone calls. It's Saturday. It's a weekend. We started early. But if you'd like to call us right now, you can call us at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Let me find that in my notes and get that into the chat. I'd love to hear from everyone. We talked about politics, science, the virus, Star Trek. Obviously, I think we should talk more Star Trek. It was terrible. It was awful. Not a fan. But, yep, we're going to try to keep the show open just a few more minutes. Give you guys a chance to call in. Saturday, maybe more people have work off. More people can call in. It's also a good time to give the show a thumbs up and a share. If you're watching on Facebook, you could recommend it to your friends. Push that like button, even the heart. They have the care button now. All these wonderful buttons on Facebook. Looks like we got a call. Just a sec. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. It's Arthur Pug calling you from London. It's been a while, so I thought I'd stop by and say howdy.
And how are things going in London there?
Well, the lead story today is related to a chap called Dominic Cummings, who, have you seen a movie on Netflix called Brexit, the Uncivil War?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a Benedict Cumberbatch movie, and it's about the kind of guy who orchestrated Brexit and swayed public opinion in its favor. And he is basically the brains behind Boris. Boris Johnson is our prime minister.
Well, I'm glad that somebody had the brains.
Well, I mean, he's sort of cast by the left as being the devil incarnate, but he's a very sharp operator. Anyway, he got coronavirus, and so did his wife. And he took his children to stay with his parents, who live about 250 miles away from London in the north of England, a town called Durham. So that technically is a breach of the lockdown. So that's what the press is causing a fuss over today over here.
Oh, I definitely heard about that. They were saying there's some rules for them and some rules for us.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I know, plenty of wealthy people who have been driving down to their weekend homes in the countryside every weekend, and life is usual. Whereas if you're poorer and you live in an apartment or a council house estate in London, obviously it's a far more miserable experience to lockdown. The other problems have been the lack of people with, say, heart conditions, minor strokes, cancer treatments that have been either suspended or delayed because of they've been trying to prioritize our National Health Service for corona victims. So, it's a really hard line to walk, but there is quite a serious argument.
Sorry, my mistake.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say that there's an argument gaining traction that as many people are suffering, certainly in terms of domestic abuse, suicides, and so on, of an equal par with the corona victims.
Yeah, I think that'd be tough to really quantify at this point. And again, by trying to fix it by letting those people out, you're actually inflating the other side. So it's now not a zero-sum. It is a zero-sum game. If you go outside, you get infected more. If you stay inside, you get infected less. Another interesting point is how the same thing happened in New York City, maybe not during the pandemic, but a little bit beforehand. They showed a graph. I can't seem to find it, New York Times paywall, but it was a heat map, and it showed Manhattan. And you could see the places where the most people had left town. And it was, all of Manhattan, right along Central Park, all the really nice places. The people just weren't going to stay. They went, like you said, to their country houses. Unlike this guy, they had the good sense to do it before the outbreak, or at least earlier on. Seems like this guy just did it randomly in the middle. Not to forget, we had the same thing here in America during the Jewish holiday. I think it was Seder or Sabbat or something like that. Just a couple of weeks ago, Ivanka Trump and her family traveled so that they could have their holiday together. They were the only family in the United States to do this, as far as I know. Everyone else stayed home. They did the Zoom thing. A lot of the synagogues and other places said, hey, just stay home. We're going to do online services. We're going to work this out. It's going to be fine. But yeah, it is shocking to see the leaders just flaunting it like this. And I'll bet it's great with the UK's tabloid culture, right?
Yeah, we're in a sort of very strange limbo, lockdown limbo at the moment. The main message on all the posters here was stay home. And about 2 weeks ago, that changed to stay alert. And the government said that you could now drive as far as you want to get exercise, although they still said you can't go to the beach for the weekend or visit natural history, beauty spots and the like. But of course, what they were basically saying is, okay, we know that, and you can go out and you can see one friend, and it used to be just family members. You couldn't arrange to meet anybody. So everybody's kind of bending the rules now because there's this very unclear, muddled message. And the bottom line is, I think they're trying to kind of relax the lockdown without actually saying so, because everybody's terrified, from the civil servants to the politicians to the ministers, that anything they do or say will be hauled over the coals in an inquiry at a later date when this is all over. And as a result, there are the rumors that all the civil servants, for example, are taking memorandums of every decision they make, so that they can cover their backs when it comes to the inquiry. And as a result, very few decisions are being taken, and they're kind of scared to commit either way. So they've just kind of fudged it, but they're gently allowing people out in the hope, I guess, that herd immunity builds up.
That's funny. I mean, because you would have it one end where it could go into paralysis because they're so afraid of making a decision or being held responsible for it. Here in America, we have the exact opposite. The leaders seem to believe that there will be no history and that no one will ever look on this thing again. So they're willing to do anything they want to fix this so that they can reopen. We had the thing in Georgia where they put the numbers out of order on the chart. And it's like, whoopsie, we put the numbers out of order so that it declines perfectly now. Like we're not going to notice that. Like we're not going to come back to it later. I'm not going to look at the document source. The same thing in Florida. The governor just keeps relaxing it, and the cases keep going up and up and up. I believe they think they'll never be held accountable. There'll be no history. Maybe they're betting on the extinction of the human race. That's a real classy move. But yeah, we seem to have the exact opposite. There's no sense of control or history. The only kind of inkling we've had of that is that very early on, President Trump tried and failed to waive all legal liability for all companies in this. He basically wanted to say, if you come to a restaurant or a cafe or a casino or a concert or a movie theater and you get sick and die, you can't sue anybody. And everyone said, no, you can sue somebody. This is America. And so they haven't gotten that through yet, but I bet they would love to. So.
Yes, perhaps without wanting to stereotype our different races and cultures, that does suggest what I think is the primary difference between the British and the Americans. You tend to be more balls to the wall, and we tend to walk around with our budgies smuggled in Speedos.
And meanwhile, we've got Netherlands over there, maybe in the middle on this debate. They had a great story. I actually saw it on BBC News. It was in the bottom, and I had to look it up because it was so great. It said, Netherlands government suggests, quote unquote, sex buddy. I was like, what? Government sex buddy? Okay, so I'm reading that. And so I went and found the article, and everything I hear from the Netherlands is just very common sense and reasonable. They were like, okay, single people, you should probably find a person and make an agreement to be buddies, and not go out and spread it to a bunch of people. Just have this one person that you're visiting, and you can take care of things, and you don't need to be a single person out there, spreading it around. Just a very sensible and reasonable tact from a government. Obviously, it wouldn't go here. They would go nuts, and I don't think it would go in England either. But yeah, what a cool idea from the Netherlands government. I can't believe what they can suggest and get away with over there. But yeah.
Yeah, the Dutch are our favorite neighbors. They are just the loveliest people on the planet, and such wonderful characters, and they all speak fluent English, which of course helps. But let me steer you towards science fiction. I've been up all night, which is why I'm a little cranky and croaky sounding. I couldn't sleep, so I torrented a whole bunch of science fiction movies that I really enjoyed back in the day. Things like Soylent Green, Logan's Run, those kind of 70s classic movies. And I have been watching them on loop for about the last 8.5 hours.
Sounds terrifying. I've seen both of those. They're great, especially Logan's Run. It's amazing what you can do with a mall. But and I'd love to see a new version of Logan's Run, and we could probably do a new Soylent Green here in real life in just a couple weeks. But did you see Relations? Did you relate it back to our times? I know I talked about Planet of the Apes recently, and I promptly lost my video ad rights like I thought I would. But it was worth it to show the clips and just kind of have that, you maniacs, you ruined it. Because it feels like that with this virus, where all these scientists, and not me, but all these scientists went to school to learn all this science, to become doctors, to become epidemiologists, to do all this stuff so they could fight viruses. This is their big time. And they seem not willing to give them the stage anymore. In the past, we had some kind of a humility with experts where, wow, you studied all that. Maybe I can learn from you, even in less time, but we don't seem to have that anymore. We're just running over the experts. We're happily shopping again, at least in my town. And the rest of us are just going to wait for the second wave and wait for the second lockdown. And it's going to be more harsh. And all the people who are like, why aren't there, troops in the street? Why are people just being trusted to stay home? And the second lockdown will be much harsher. I can show you there was charts from the U.S. lockdown where it's like everyone locked down for about a week or 2 weeks. And then people started to creep out, and then they started to go out, and then they started. So even when they were locked down, they really couldn't stay locked down. Maybe they didn't understand that staying locked down protects other people, and that it's like a selfless act. It's kind of a beautiful thing. But maybe they were just selfish. They had to get outside.
Seen pictures.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've seen pictures of some of the American casinos that have reopened with sort of isolation booths and 4 or 5 people to the poker table, and 2 to 3 people in kind of glass or plastic cages at the blackjack tables and so on. But Thomas, well, I mean, the thing is, if you're correct and that a rise in the R number rates could lead to a second outbreak, how long do you think people can wait? I mean, especially the younger people and the people who are who can't get a foot on the property ladder these days because everything's so expensive. Let's assume the worst, and that it's going to be a year to a year and a half before a vaccine is mass produced. Surely you're not suggesting everybody stays in lockdown for the next year and a half?
Well, I don't think that would be necessary, but from the beginning, stopping the virus has always been the same game. And what's sad is it's the same game at 10 or 100 people as it is at 100,000 people. It's just a much harder game. The virus, seeming on the best information we have right now, it doesn't seem to spread on surfaces as much as they were originally afraid of. It spreads person to person. So if everyone right now froze into place for 14 days, 14 days and 1 hour, all the virus would die, right? So we just have to look at each location and we have to zoom in on them and stay in place 14 days without spreading it. And if you do spread it, go immediately to the hospital, tell the people who you had meetings with. Maybe we can use our technology and our mobile phones to alert these people. Then they could come in and be tested. Then they could say who they had meetings with. And it's really this tedious game of track and trace, and that we just track and trace and we just separate the people with the virus from the healthy population until the virus goes away and no one has it. And that's the way you stop the virus until you get the vaccine, which is a preventative where you can give a weakened version of the virus to everyone on the planet. Then when the virus hits them, it won't stick, right? It'll have a non-host. The people who refuse the vaccine, they will still be hosts, and they'll be carrying stronger versions of the virus that will be even harsher. So it gets even worse if you don't take the vaccine. But basically, yeah, we need someone like the original Captain Picard from the Next Generation, who someone all trusts, who's scientific and even-handed and responsible, who can say, okay, our Starship Enterprise happens to be the size of the Earth today, has the virus on it, right? No one can get off the planet, right? No one can get away from the ship, get away from the virus. Everyone's in a trapped system. We're all sharing air, and we're sharing food and all these other things. And I think they've said, some of the scientists say we could do 2 months on, 1 month off for the lockdowns, kind of phase them. That would be a way of controlling the disease until we get the vaccine. I think that's a good idea. But I think in general,
yes,
people...
But Thomas, even the sort of what we call sage over here, the elected scientific community that are advising the government, said the objective was to flatten the curve. Do you not think that has been achieved?
Not in America and not in the UK. So and again, it's not just flattening the curve. Flattening the curve is so you don't overwhelm the medical system. They put a line up there. They say we have X number of hospital beds. If we can get the curve to go flat below that number, and we never hit our max, and we never have to triage people and say, you die, you get a bed. You die, you get a bed. Right? That's the worst kind of thing you have to do. So we didn't want to do that. After you do that, it goes down. Right? So going down means that the virus is not out there. So if everyone everyone stays home, a couple people have the virus, they have the problem, they stay at home, it's good. But as soon as we start going back out there, it starts spreading if it's still there. And I don't have the charts right here, but you can see on the UK and the American chart, there's no downward line, right? We're missing the second half of the graph. It goes up, it kind of goes at peak, and then it goes a little flat, and then it needs to go down, right? That's the virus leaving the outside so you can go outside again. In many countries it has, and I think it's fine for them to reopen. But in the US and the UK it hasn't, but we're reopening anyway. So we're going to see what happens. So
I think you're a brave man, because even the Bitcoin community is very divided over this. They seem to fall into the libertarian and this is one of those occasions when the state must intervene. And if you don't mind me continuing to play devil's advocate, I've heard you say that this is the time for large public spending infrastructure type projects, and yet you still kind of play the money printer goes burr, as though you're taking the libertarian, somewhat piss-taking attack on the government for doing that.
Right. Yeah, I think we can have both. I think that both the money printer needs to go, and we need to recognize it, and we need to understand what we're doing, and that, yes, it is something you do during a crisis. And I do think this is a crisis. And on the other hand, we can say that this is not a wholly Bitcoin world. I've talked about this a lot, where in the Bitcoin future, you can't just build bombers and so forth because you don't have the money for it. You actually have to pay for those bombers, as they do right now. They fiat the bombers, they run the money printers, and then they create new bombers. In the same way, though, on the other side, if we have a earthquake or a natural disaster, and Bruce Springsteen's up there telling you to donate to the Katrina victims, and you don't donate, in a Bitcoin world, there's no money to rebuild their houses. There's no money to give them anything. So I do think that's a downside of the all Bitcoin world, but we're not quite there yet. I do think Bitcoin's the best source of store of value, and the best currency, the best vehicle to trade. It's more useful than gold. It's stable, unlike the US dollar, but we're not 100% of the way there yet. So as we are still in a Keynesian system, as I would say 99.9% of all economists are Keynesian, especially the ones working for the government, I look for them to follow their religion and to print more money and to save the day here, because this is a natural disaster. This is a true crisis. And yes, it will have results later. We're going to inflate the currency. There's going to be problems in the future. But on the other side, do we just give in to the virus? Or we just allow the virus to run rampant? We allow these people to go bankrupt because they can't work in restaurants, because they can't work anywhere. We allow them to get tossed out on the street. It just seems very destructive, and to me kind of bridges in towards universal basic income, which I think, and I agreed with Andrew Yang's presidential campaign, was incredibly necessary because of artificial intelligence and roboticization, modernization, these things making the jobs go away. So I think we can have both. I think we can accept both. But I do agree with you. Much of the Bitcoin community is going the other way, and they're mocking the money printer and so on. But that's, at this point, that's the life-saving money printer. That's the money printer that's keeping people from being evicted, so they're not out on the street, so they're not spreading the disease. I don't think we have another choice. So it's a pragmatic utilitarian choice. So
any more printing money? I mean, in America, you're somewhat insulated because the dollar is the world reserve currency. But for everybody else, assuming we are going to be heavily broke, I mean, here the government's been quite generous in. We have something called the universal credit. I get about 500 quid, which is about $700 a month. People are getting furloughed, so their salaries are being paid. 80% at least of the salaries are being paid. Everybody's getting interest-free loans if you're self-employed now. But the cost is going to be so immense that if the economy collapses and we go into hyperinflation, it's all right for us Bitcoiners. We know we've got some digital gold that's going to be very valuable, but everybody else is going to be FU''CKED.
Well, that's always been the situation, and that's why we've spent 7 years trying to tell people to buy Bitcoin, right? I mean, we've been on this every day for years and years.
Yeah, but it's still it's a tiny, it's like 0.1% of the
Oh,
world,
absolutely, yeah.
if that.
We
So it's no good saying they haven't listened to us. I
Well,
mean,
I mean, it is what's happened. Just like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they were going to destroy the Earth, and they're like, "What? You haven't gone to the planning office? You haven't looked at the plans?" So yeah, I agree, and it's definitely going to hit other countries worse who don't have the ability to print money. Not just the UK, but even third world developing countries. They have no ability to print money, and the IMF is not handing out loans during this. There's been no international attempt to save these other countries. Perhaps the president famously doesn't seem to like any other countries. It's strange we're getting some internet problems. Hopefully we're still on here. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to get worse. But again, it's the chosen system, right? So we can't just change systems in the middle of this. That's not an option. As a pragmatist, I'm like, oh, we can't just throw it out. So they've got the Keynesian system. So yes, they need to print the money. It is a risk of hyperinflation. Also, I think that in America, we're going to see really soon that not only is demand gone, most of our businesses are closed, right? Most are closed and not coming back. We're not ready for this, but we're going to need government grants to start new businesses. It's going to take about 6 months to a year before we get to this point, even though it would be great to start now. But yeah, there's going to be disposable government grants begging people to start restaurants and other money-losing businesses that just completely went away. The comic book stores went away. The bookstores are going away. The restaurants went away. The movie theaters are all closed. A lot of the places where normal people work just don't exist anymore, and there's no demand for them. So it's one of these chicken and the egg problems. We have problems on both sides. Like, how do you start demand? How do you get restaurants back? And with both of these, as horrifying as it is, I've already said we're going to need programs like FDR had in the 20s and 30s. We're going to need the Works Progress Administration. We're going to need other things like that where they pay people to work. They pay people to build bridges. They pay people to build roads. We get something out of it. We get the bridges and the road. But in the meantime, we don't completely flatten out. The risk is total collapse, right? Chaos, which a lot of the people are laughing about. And they're like, yay, money printer, chaos, woo. And I don't think it's funny or happy at all. I think it's sad. But I also think it's the best solution amongst a series of bad solutions. It looks like we're getting some message that we're offline. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to check the chat.
I can still hear you. You can still, but I have a bigger question though. Why was 42 the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything?
Because it's 6 times 7.
Well, thanks for entertaining my rather grumpy thoughts. It's always good to check in and hear your reasoned opinions, because I must say, day to day, my tendency is to drift towards the beast of Bitcoin. What's his name? The Meister's let it be kind of attitude. But you always you're a refreshingly cold shower, Thomas.
Well, I wish we could let it be, and I wish it would be fine, and I wish it was fake and everything, but all the information I have right now says that it's not. And if I get new information, I'll change my mind, and if it outweighs the other information. But no, right now it looks like, and I've been through these things before where it's the strangest feeling where you have the information and other people don't, or you've made the analysis on the information and other people haven't. And then you just have to wait. You have to wait for them to come along. And I remember being I was against the Afghanistan war. I was against the Iraq war. From the first day, I had already enough information to know. For example, with the Iraq war, I read an article years ago that they were restricted and they couldn't have PlayStation 2s because they were supercomputers. They couldn't have dentist chairs because they were seen as dual use, right? These are the people that had mobile biological weapons laboratories on trains. And I said, oh, great, they're on trains. Follow the tracks, blow up the tracks. Done. I didn't understand we needed a full-scale invasion to stop that kind of garbage. And the same thing with Afghanistan. It was fake. But we just had to wait. It took years and years and years. And then everyone who sold the war on TV, everyone who supported the war, everyone came around. All the normal people came back around. And just like in this one with the masks, it was only weeks ago or months ago where Balaji and my friend from Hong Kong and some other people on the internet were the only ones saying, let's wear masks. And now everyone's wearing masks, and New York City's doing public service announcements, and all the celebrities are wearing fancy masks. And it changes like that. And right now we can be cavalier and people can still go out shopping and get their haircuts and think that everything's fine. And then later on, sadly, I believe that we're going to learn everything is not fine. So I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope I'm wrong. And then we're sitting here in a few months. There's no second outbreak. There's no second lockdown. Everything went back to normal. That would be great. I'm hoping for that. Then I can travel again and go to casinos and movies and everything. So we'll see.
A final note, Thomas, on Hong Kong. I heard you say on a show a few days ago that the British had kind of sold the Hong Kong people down the river when we handed it over to the Chinese. I would just say in our defense, not that I represent the British government, but you've got to remember in the context of the 80s, when anti-colonialism was at its peak and we were kind of accused of running, one of the last colonial outposts. And Mrs. Thatcher, who was quite a bulldog, did her very best to at least ensure they had some kind of duality of systems, some kind of prevention of communism taking over people's lives for the next 150 years. And I think it was a remarkable piece of diplomacy. Obviously, the cracks are appearing now, and many people here feel terribly guilty about not being more supportive. But the bottom line is, although we've just it's being called kowtowing to the Americans, we've announced we're going to remove some of Huawei's 5G implementations here. We are very much in a global environment, and you have to trade with people you disagree with politically. And for us to just bend to the British line because we need a Brexit deal, to the American line so that we get a decent trade deal out of you, I think is wrong. We should be more global in our approach.
Well, I think you're definitely right that with some hindsight, I was surprised that the British held up their agreement to give it back. It was a 100-year agreement, and they did agree and to stick with the agreement. I think Thatcher did negotiate a good deal, but always with these deals, there's just not enough punishment on it, and there's not a clear line. If China goes over this line, this punishment will happen. And even right now, they're very much over the line with this Article 23 and trying to put it in through the back door. And they're also very early. Theoretically, they could do this in 50 years, and we're just supposed to not say anything. The fact that they did it early is just another way of the China's breaking the deal. So I don't know. I was surprised the British stood up to the 100-year agreement. I'm basically now saying they shouldn't have honored it, which is dishonorable, saying that they should break a contract. But then there's another thing where maybe they could have had a referendum and let the Hong Kong people decide. But then that could be fixed and so on and so forth. So it was a tough situation. It's tough to get anything out of it. I do think there was that initial 10-year migration period, 86 to 96, which would have been a good time to get the heck out of there. But remember, Anne Frank, her parents, they left Germany. They went to Amsterdam. That seems pretty far, but it wasn't further enough. They actually had to leave Amsterdam too. Going to Hong Kong instead of China is a good step. But I think you actually had to leave it. And then now they got this other kind of 97 till now, 13-year period. So in it all, I say you had about 23 years where you could have seen the sign and gotten the heck out of Hong Kong. And now we're in another one of those bubbles. We're in the coronavirus bubble. We're in the Hong Kong bubble too, where right now I can say, oh, my friends are fine. And 6 months from now, I don't know if I can say that. And I know they're not going to leave. Not all of them. I hope some do. And it's not that easy. It's not that easy to just say that. But
I mean, China is likely to go for a military takeover of Taiwan sooner rather than later, too, in a worst-case scenario. You've got Russia looking at the Baltic states. You know, I know you've been to Bitcoin conferences in, is it Latvia or
yep.
Lithuania?
Yeah, I went to Riga, Latvia. It's farthest north and the farthest east that I've been, for sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure Russian tanks are eagerly eyeing rolling over those borders again.
Yeah, it's tough if you don't know what the reaction is, what the world community is going to do to prevent that. And that's what happened last time in the Sudetenland, in Austria, in Poland. So many of these places we're just like, well, you know, it was theirs originally, or, well, they speak the same language, or, well, they used to have it 200 years ago. But, you know, 200 years ago, the maps were different. So everything was different.
And the rest of us have a surveillance police state to look forward to. That's such a cheerful note to end on, Thomas.
Well, you're just going to have to keep watching the old sci-fi movies that predicted it all. So
you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fire up 2001: A Space Odyssey. I just downloaded that in 1080p, and there's a guy called Collative Learning on YouTube. If you're not familiar with him, I highly recommend you check out his hidden narrative of 2001. I mean, we all know about the alien artifact that led to that helped humans evolve. But are you aware of the underlying narrative about the monolith itself?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I'm definitely interested in the monolith, and I think it's a good mystery and all that. And it kind of gets ruined in 2010, but you can kind of ignore part of that.
Well,
so.
I mean, Arthur C. Clarke, Kubrick changed an awful lot in the movie, much like he did with The Shining, to make it much more layered and meaningful. And I won't give away anything except to say closely examine the dimensions of the monolith and what that might relate to.
Interesting. I know I have seen that movie, something like Room 209. It's about The Shining, and it's all these different conspiracy theories about what The Shining could be about, and if it's about Native Americans or the Apollo moon landing or all kinds of stuff. And that's a really cool documentary, although I think some of them are way off base, but still.
Yes. Right. I'm going to love you and leave you, Thomas. It's been, thank you for putting up with my grumpy old man talk, and I'm wishing you all the best from the other side of the pond.
Thanks so much for the call, Arthur.
And hi to all Bitcoiners too out there.
Yeah, happy pizza day. It's going to be great. And yeah, it's good to chat with you, and it's good to have the devil's advocate too. We need to try to address our own points and stuff.
Hey, I thought you were lactose intolerant. How did you manage to eat your brother's pizza?
Oh, I braved it for one piece. So I took the punishment, and then I kind of, it's not the greatest, but I peel the cheese off and I put the toppings back on. So it's not the best, but you know, you got the situation. And if you can still enjoy milk and cheese, everybody eat some ice cream for me. It used to be great stuff. So,
at least you didn't put pineapple on it.
There you go. That was good. So thanks so much, Arthur, and give us a call anytime. All right. And if you'd like to give us a call, we could still maybe fit in one or two more shorter calls. You can call us now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Have you been watching any science fiction movies lately? Have you heard about the monolith? Now, I think mainly he's a little bit of that monolith stuff I might know, or I might be able to reconstruct from the outside. I've definitely heard that the monoliths have something to do with kind of the golden ratio, that the different sizes, the different numbers would add up to, you know, something like 369 or 3.14, whatever it is, you know, the circle, the shell, the shell shape, that kind of thing, the Fibonacci sequence. So there's that. And then I know that they started off smaller. Like the first monolith is the one that the monkeys see. The second monolith is the one on the moon that we see. I think it's getting bigger. Then the next one is that one way out in Jupiter. Then things get really weird, and I think there's a lot of smaller monoliths, and they're all kind of creating an opening or forming or something. The whole Europa situation. But yeah, it's a very cool movie. The original 2001. Kubrick adding in those layers. Arthur C. Clarke with the futurism. All the work that the designers did with the real physical sets and the models. It was actually really neat. I got to go to the San Francisco. They have a, what's it called? San Francisco Jewish Museum. And they had a Stanley Kubrick exhibit. And it was fantastic. I went 3 times. But one of the things they had was the original model from 2001 of the ship. I think it's the Discovery. And it was so long and so big, and they had hung it from the rafters, and you could really see it. And it was very detailed. It was very cool. They had Stanley Kubrick's chair from Full Metal Jacket, his director's chair, and I think he used it on multiple films. I touched it. It was cool. So it was a very cool exhibit, the Stanley Kubrick exhibit. And there's a lot of great stuff about 2001. You should definitely check it out. A lot of cool stuff in there if you haven't seen it. And like Arthur's saying, you can get it in 1080p. You lucky kiddos, you can watch it in widescreen. And I'm pretty sure it's anamorphic. It's like 2:3:5:1. Like it's the very wide format. I think it was in CinemaScope is what they called it back in those days. It was in scope. But yeah, you don't have to rent it on VHS like I did and watch it in a square box with bad sound. So check out 2001, maybe Planet of the Apes. He was also saying Soylent Green. That's a good one. And Logan's Run, a very good one with the Keeping Society Young. A lot of these 70s films had the ability to really try out ideas. So they were kind of Twilight Zone-y in a way, where they had one really good kernel of an idea, and then the story was kind of draped around it. And you put a star in it, and it's a movie. So very cool stuff. But it was great to join you guys on this Saturday morning. Checking again with the price of Bitcoin remains mostly flat, not seeing a lot of action. The price is down 0.59% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,176, a high of 9,304, and a low of 9,072. That's $1 for 10,898 Satoshis. Volume was a little low for the weekend, around 2,649 Bitcoins trading hand. Market still margin long, 77%. Checking out, let's see. Oh, no donations to our fundraiser. We didn't get any donations. I didn't show you the graphics on the chart, but you know what the chart looks like anyway. But yeah, no donations to the fundraiser. If you'd like to donate, any funds sent to this address will be used to buy more Bukowski books for the show. Then I'll read different poems. So if you like the same poems, don't donate. If you want new poems, donate just a little bit, not that much. If it got to like $40, I'd be like, stop showing the fundraiser. It's too successful. And again, it's a great chance to try out Bitcoin and Lightning. Hey, we got another block. Seems like the blocks have been coming faster since DJ Booth improved the animation. Check it out. Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto driving that new block with those new Bitcoins. Only 6 1/4. You should put 6 1/4 on there. Maybe put mad Bitcoins in there with a mining thing. That'd be fun. Anyway, we're going to head towards the end of the show. We'll be back again tomorrow with Sunday's show, which is Big Book Day. So I'm going to be selecting a big book to show you tomorrow. Today was International Book Day, so we showed some of the books that I bought while I was in Europe. I showed this book from Spain, Jose Cucadas, incredible military artwork details of the soldiers and their uniforms, their saddlebags, the horses, really detailed stuff from Suedes, stuff like this, action in the battle, but still the realism and the accuracy of the uniforms, bringing you into the painting, experiencing those emotions, hitting you in the feels. Another thing about these, I'm pretty sure he worked from photographs. So he would take photographs out in the field of the soldiers, and then he would work from the photographs, recreating the scene and the situation, maybe sometimes adding dramatic effect or throwing in, a horse or something turning, something exciting. But a lot of these are from prints, probably from photographs, but very cool stuff. Ciudadas, Cucadas, from Spain. And then we had the 2 picture books, the Tower Bridge and the Trinity College in Dublin. Very cool stuff. The Tower Bridge, a mechanical monument, a marvel. Those incredible bridges sliding up and back using their own gravity to lift the incredible weight with a little help. But that was the Trinity College books. Oops. So a library with books. And then this one is a bridge with gears and a bridge with machines and stuff. So you can enjoy them too. But thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday. I hope you guys enjoyed your Bitcoin Pizza Day. I can't wait to have another one next year. Isn't Bitcoin fun? We have so many holidays. Oh, and then I'm wearing my Ugly Old Goat cruise shirt. It's pretty impressive. I can show you the back. Really show it off here. That's right. I got the goat on my back today. But another fun thing about this shirt is it's that fancy material, so it's good to wear in the desert. And it's a lot like the shirts that they have in Idiocracy, where he pulls them out of it's like a toilet paper dispenser wrap. He's like, because they're disposable clothing. He's like, yeah, I got pro wear and something else. And the guy just like pulls one out like a t-shirt, and it's disposable clothing. Oh, the future, Idiocracy, right? We're getting there. So yeah, I'm very Bitcoined up today. And then I got my Grateful Dead hat that I got at the show. So until next time, bye-bye.